Again, I have never. Bellular's got it. Is Bellular perhaps the best overall World of Warcraft content creator? Him. There's a few other ones that are up there. Maybe Mr. GM as well. I'm talking about like overall, like for retail, anyways. Probably biggest content creator in the know of things that are going on at Blizzard. But Bellular, I saw this came across my my suggested World of Warcraft Hit Rock Bottom, and I believe it looks like he's talking about the numbers, like how many people are playing or something like that, which doesn't really surprise me because we've heard for months now, over a year now, that the numbers for Shadowlands have been absolutely terrible, basically. There are way more Google searches for TBC than there are for anything to do with Shadowlands. Shadowlands is just not doing very well at all. And again, I would love to love retail again, but I'm just not at all excited about retail, and virtually no one that I know cares about Dragonflight, which is sad because there are some things in Dragonflight that are maybe interesting. I like the fact that they're coming back to Azeroth, maybe getting back into an actual RPG, fantasy RPG. They're coming back to the tree system. I think maybe Blizzard has seen that there's things that people really like about Classic that they're maybe trying to bring back. But the numbers for Shadowlands are obviously abysmal. So I think that's maybe what this video is about. But again, I don't know. As you can see, I haven't gone through any of the video at all. So let's check it out.
Welcome back. Last time we covered Mythic, but there's a problem with that. Most people don't play Mythic, so what about Normal and Heroic, the raid tiers that most people actually do? Well, tier after tier, we've witnessed a huge decline in the raiding scene this expansion, reaching new lows across the board. The drop-off between each tier is unprecedented, almost halving.
So where's he? Is there like an Ironforge.pro for retail? I guess there is. There's got to be like raid logs or something like that. Like it's been years since I played retail. Like I played a little bit of BFA. Legion I kind of played, but they've got to have, I guess they've got a way to sort of track that sort of stuff online as well. But it's been widely known that Shadowlands has been vastly outperformed by TBC numbers wise. So
for both Normal and Heroic since Castle Nathria, and as we talked about, Mythic hasn't fared much better either. And while the percentage of guilds who manage to progress through and defeat the end boss on each difficulty has actually, I suppose this is the good thing, remained.
Actually, before we even continue, how many of you in chat are actually going to play Dragonflight? Put a 1 in chat if you're going to actually play Dragonflight. And if you're watching the video on YouTube, which is where I'm going to post it, put down below if you're actually interested in coming back for Dragonflight or if you've just had enough. Like you're just not going back. I'm undecided at this point. I would love to be interested by the game. So far, the only thing that's really interested me is the fact that they're coming back to Azeroth and Talent Trees. But other than that, I thought the trailer was garbage, but that's actually a good sign. Because if you look at some of the really good, fantastic trailers in the history of World of Warcraft, talking like Warlords of Draenor and stuff like that, those games actually turned out to be terrible. So
remained somewhat stable. That's only the percentage. The actual number of guilds has unfortunately fallen off a cliff, with 9.2 setting new record lows. In our Mythic analysis, we covered the reasons that will overlap to the other modes, so hey, let's go do a speed run. General player sentiment and participation numbers being down, less people playing WoW. People having had enough of the Shadowlands because of lore, gameplay, and overly fictitious design philosophies, a lack of regular game updates, the natural losses that happen from tier to tier within in most expansions, Sepulchre's unique difficulty, Season 3's shorter length, and external factors like Blizzard Entertainment's culture, and of course...
Are any of you guys actually playing Shadowlands? Is there anyone in my chat right now that's playing Shadowlands? We've got over 60 viewers. Is there anyone that is actually playing Shadowlands right now? I don't care. I've never actually bought Shadowlands. I started leveling a new mage up on Shadowlands, but I never actually tried it. Like a bunch of my friends tried playing it, and they were like, "Oh, this is great, it's great." And then 2 weeks later, they're like, "This sucks, this sucks." So I stopped leveling my mage. It's like level 30 or something like that. So nobody. Most people play class, but I always play retail. Are you playing retail right now, Tiraj? Welcome to the chat, of course. Anyways,
other video games. Today, then, you are going to see that in addition to looking at guild participation, there are fantastic, fascinating things to look at with our parse numbers that show quite a story. Would you like to see modern versus classic?
Uh-oh.
We've got that for you too today.
Uh-oh.
It's
Uh-oh.
honestly insane.
Uh-oh. You know what? Doing this always gets people angry. Because people that like retail can't stand it when the classic numbers are rubbed in their face, and same vice versa. It goes both ways. So don't downvote my video just because I said that. It's true. Both people on both sides, just like there's people that absolutely despise classic and there's people that absolutely despise retail no matter what. So
just like ignoring Masterworks, today's sponsor, who let everyday people like you and me diversify into the art market. Now, contemporary art has outpaced the S&P 500 for the last 25 years by more than double, appreciating more than gold, real estate,
contemporary art,
S&P when inflation is high at a whopping 33% annually, repeating, of course. And that's why I've partnered with Masterworks. Masterworks offer investments in that same contemporary art category. Now, importantly, this is not NFTs or anything like that. This is fractional shares of actual paintings. Like Picasso.
I should try and sell some of my paintings. Should I try and sell paintings, chat? Here, no, seriously, like, look at my paintings. Hold on. Check out my painting. Look, there's my painting right there. Okay, there I am. Okay, my ex-girlfriend. There I am. That's my painting. Do you think I could sell my painting, chat?
Picasso, Monet, Banksy. When Masterworks sells a painting that you've invested in, you get a potential return. And the 6 paintings that they've sold thus far have averaged a 29% net annual return, even through COVID, a bear market, and record high inflation. Now, of course, past performance is no guarantee of future results, but we all do know the general investing wisdom that we should have a diversified portfolio. That's what's ideal. And Masterworks make diversifying into art accessible and possible by everyday people. They are seeing record demand, but you can skip the waitlist by clicking the link down in the description. So,
use the code Bellular, everyone.
Video. And with that said,
if you're watching my video on YouTube, please use Bellular as your code, okay?
Look at normal mode.
Hey, here. So he's actually going to do it. He's going to go into classic versus retail.
Wow. Well, these numbers won't tell the whole story. They certainly do paint a rather bleak one for us. I should say, unfortunately, because I do actually want to see the game do well. Okay, so normal. The most approachable raid difficulty excluding LFR. You'd imagine it would be pretty stable, but it's actually the one that's experienced the largest decrease in participation ever during Shadowlands. While there were noticeable dips in Battle for Azeroth, they pale in comparison to the most recent few tiers. Looking back to Legion, you can see those numbers do look very stable, at least next to these 2 later expansions. What's changed since Legion then? Well, I would posit that normal mode...
What's the difference for WoW between Legion and Shadowlands? It sucks. I think that's the problem.
Will correlate the most to just average gamer interest in WoW, average player numbers, because of normal mode's more broad appeal and accessibility. And I think that means that normal mode is probably a pretty damn good indication of overall player losses. While we don't know overall player losses, I think normal mode shows us that they are probably very large. Getting into the numbers then, Castle Nathria showed awesome promise, a total of 48,419.
I got a question. If you can tell... Okay, just bear with me for a second here. If you can tell how many guilds are actually clearing the content, could you not take that number, compare it to the number that we had when they actually recorded sub counts, and get a rough estimation as to how many people, how many subs there are still playing retail WoW? Would that not be or am I just talking out of my ass? Like, would that not be a good sort of ballpark figure? So if there's, let's say there was like, I don't know, 10,000. How many guilds did he say? I don't know. Where's the guilds here? So here's the guilds here. So now it's down to, say, I don't know, 15,000 guilds that have killed the first boss, right? Can you not compare that to sort of a rough estimate to when they last recorded? With a margin of error, of course. I mean, it's not going to be exact. I said that, but you can guesstimate with that, right?
Battle for Azeroth, they pale in comparison to the most recent few tiers. Looking back to Legion, you can see those numbers do look very stable, at least next to these two later expansions. What's
like
changed since Legion?
even just this, like if it's down to 15,000 and it was upwards of 30,000 in Legion, you would figure that's almost half of paid people or of the paying subs are not playing anymore, maybe?
Then, well, I would posit that normal mode will correlate the most to just
Feel that the community has just shrank by simply high
player numbers.
communities. Casuals have all but disappeared. That's not good if the casuals have disappeared.
Normal mode is probably a pretty damn good indication.
Like we got to remember something. I mean, as much as we like to try and think that we're competitive players, normal, like casual players make up the bulk of the player base. So if the bulk of your player base is shrinking that fast, like Elkstra, sorry if I mispronounced that, like Elkstra is saying in chat, who is plays retail and admits that the community has definitely shrunk. That's pretty bad when the bulk of your player base is shrinking that fast.
Overall player losses. While we don't know overall player losses, I think normal mode shows us that they are probably very large. Getting into
what we just said.
Then, Castle Nathria showed awesome promise. A total of 48,419 guilds defeated the first boss, while 35,509 of those managed to clear the rest of the raid on normal difficulty. An 81.9% clear rate. That's pretty awesome when compared.
Like, as an example, do we know how many guilds cleared the first boss in ICC, for example? Like, I know that the sub counts were way higher, but you can get sort of a ratio as to where maybe we're at, get an idea as to what sub counts were. You're not going to get an exact number, but
it is actually only downhill from here on. Now, while the percentage of normal guilds that managed to clear Sylvanas came in at a stable 82%, the actual number of guilds that made up that percentage more than halved since Nathria. Given the 48k-ish guilds that managed to clear Nathria's first boss, well, only 21,649 seemed to come back to clear the first boss of Sanctum. That's like a 55% decrease in just one tier.
More decrease
that we'd actually never seen before. The next closest drop-off was back in BFA, another very controversial expansion which saw a 40% drop in normal, going from Aldir to Dazara lore, like for like here. Sylvanas' numbers
so
much.
Obviously with this count here, is if this is BFA, these numbers, you would think that there's less subs now than there were in BFA, right? Like we can look at this and say, okay, there's less guilds that are participating. There's probably less subs as well. Maybe.
Much better either. Also seeing a 55%.
I mean, there's even less the next phase as well. There's even less.
Decrease when compared to Denathrius. Okay, after this 55% decrease in normal guilds, surely Sepulchre...
Actually, let's quickly go back to that. Yeah, anyways.
After this 55% decrease in normal guilds, surely Sepulchre could turn it around. I mean, compared to all previous tiers of Shadowlands, Sepulchre looked the most promising of all, right? It was full of relatively alt-friendly features, no Korthia to grind, no Maw to grind, the return of tier sets, an exciting feature, and easy enough to obtain double legendaries. And of course, a chance to finally put an end to the Chuckler. Well, while 9.2 almost certainly retained more players than another 9.1 style patch would have, it did not manage to bring back enough players to see an increase in raid participation. This is the bit that's a little bit sad, because in fact, it was during Sepulchre that we saw even more record lows for guild participation. Among these new record lows was the normal guild clear percentage, dropping a staggering 68% from the previous
lower than any other
2% for Shadowlands thus far.
Oh wait, no,
Meaning
65
that this
here.
is the second lowest clear rate percentage recorded for normal since Legion, beating only by Nyalotha with 65.54%. So long gone are the glory days of Legion, where the average guild clear rate was 90%.
Oof.
This is normal mode, though. What about Heroic? Surely the more dedicated players of the game will be in Heroic. Well, let's take a look.
You can already tell that it's not just by the
Heroic
tone of his
shows
voice.
A similar story. Shadowlands saw the lowest ever percentage of guilds achieving ahead of the curve in most of its tiers, in addition to the lowest overall guild participation, with the exception of the marvelously performing Castle Nathria. Digging into these numbers, we see the Nathria set a record in the number of guilds that started and finished a tier, but unfortunately this still translated into the lowest percentage seen for the number of guilds achieving ahead of the curve in recent history. Now, in a way that's not necessarily surprising though, because it actually follows the same trend that was seen during Uldir and BFA. Record high turnout for first boss kills, but a record low percentage of guilds actually making it through to that final boss. So, were the final 3 bosses too much? I don't know, did Stone Legion generals and stuff kind of hold people back too long? I'm not sure, but I do remember people considering Nathria to be like a proper good little challenge. Now, while Sanctum actually managed to see a slight increase in the percentage of guilds attaining curve, which I think does make sense when you think about the relative difficulty compared to Nathria, the actual number of guilds plummeted. It plummeted from 42,778 in Nathria to 20,386 for Sanctum. That's a 52% decrease. For last boss kills, it was a 51% decrease. Not only does the percentage decrease set a new record, but the number of guilds that managed to defeat Heroic Sylvanas at that time was the lowest ever for a Heroic end boss, at the very least since Nighthold. Now, if you think that Sanctum and Sylvanas, you think that's the end of our record lows for Shadowlands, then you are gravely wrong. Although Sepulchre, while not perfect, was much more player-friendly when compared to previous tiers, both for new/alt players and engaged raiders, Heroic raid participation hit rock bottom. Only 13,279 guilds came back to clear just the first boss, compared to 20,386 for Sanctum. Sanctum itself, of course, was also a massive decline.
8,000 for the last boss.
When we go to the last boss figures, though, reality hits you. Only 8,010 guilds cleared Heroic Jailer. I mean, wow. While that's not too much lower than Heroic Sylvanas, these numbers are a huge cause for concern. Literally, where did everyone go? So, almost 2/3 of the guilds that managed to defeat Heroic Denathrius at the first tier of the expansion had left by the end of Sepulchre. Okay, some may have started a bit late in or whatever, but you get the point here. Attrition is massive. Alarm bells surely must be ringing throughout Blizzard HQ. Okay, let's go and be productive. What caused this? And
you know what Blizzard's just looking at bottom line. They're looking at how much are they getting off the cash shop? How much their MUIs are? So how many monthly what is it? MAUs, MUIs, monthly active users, MAUs. Sorry, I knew I'd get it. MAUs, and you know what? They count bots in monthly active users. So if you're wondering why they don't get rid of bots, that's one of the reasons they don't really try to get rid of bots, because they can use that in their reports when they're doing their reports, their stock reports or their investment reports, is they can say there's 1 million monthly active users or something like that. I don't know what the actual number is. But in reality, a good chunk of that are bots. And when they give a higher number, it entices more people to believe that there are more people than are actually playing the game than there actually are. And so the stock price goes up. And guess who owns shares in the company? The people that make decisions on whether or not they should get rid of bots. So think about that if you were in their shoes and somebody came up to you and said, hey, I've got a way to get rid of bots once and for all. Like, just get rid of them. They will be gone. And you're somebody that is a decision maker in Blizzard, and you've got to decide whether you're going to take this action or not, knowing full well that you have X number of shares in the company, and getting rid of the bots is going to get rid of a relatively significant chunk of the population in the game, and your MAUs number is going to come down. Therefore, it's going to look worse on the company and on the game, and your stock price will probably take a hit. How are you going to respond? Now, I know all of us, we're all noble people, right? We're all going to make the right decision. All right, would you make that decision? It's true. And for people that, like, I worked in investor relations for a little while. Something people have to understand about corporations like Blizzard is they are by law required to do what they can within the boundaries of the law to try and make their shareholders money. Essentially, that's the gist of it. There's a lot more to it than that. But they need to actually be making a actual effort to be making the shareholders money, the small owners of the company, as you will. So even if you own like 0.01%, you have a right to understand that the decision makers are actually trying to make the company profitable as they can, within reason. Obviously, you can't go and murder someone to try and make more money or whatever, but allowing bots to buy accounts in your game is not illegal, and it generates revenue, and revenue shows up on your fiscal reports. And the higher the revenue, the higher the share price goes up. So keep that in mind.
And we expect to see similar issues. Well, while not everything here was literally required, much of it was desirable for performance, and it did help to set a negative.
You hate how these people blame this all on the programmers and harassing them on Twitter. Yeah, guys, keep in mind, like, programmers are told this is what we want to see in the game. Like, a low-level programmer or whatever cannot just suddenly start programming stuff into the game to eliminate bots without being given permission to do so. Right? Like, they can't just go in, hey, you know what? We're going to, we've got a new program that we can launch in the game, and it's going to discover these bots and automatically ban them. Like, think about it. I mean, this is going off on a little bit of a tangent because, I mean, obviously the numbers are starting to crash. I mean, you know, the bots aren't crashing. They're not the ones that are leaving the game. It's the actual players. So if the numbers are, let's say, for example, that the bots are, let's say the bots are 10% of the actual player population. Okay. And then say the remaining player population, let's say half of them leave, which apparently more than half of them have left. That means that the bot percentage of the population now is like 20% or 50% or whatever. It's a much higher percentage. The bots aren't going away. It's the players that are being driven away. So yeah, you can't just, as a programmer, go and say, hey, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna get rid of all the bots. You have to actually, for something like, that you're adding to the code or whatever, you have to basically get it authorized basically by people that are making decisions, people that own shares in the company and get bonuses at the end of the year with shares in the company. So when they get those bonuses at the end of the year, they want to see those share prices as high as possible, which is why Blizzard is having, like, always at the end of the fiscal year, does everything possible to make it look like their monthly active users are as high as possible and the revenue as high as possible. So are you going to be that programmer that walks into, insert person's name here and say, hey, listen, August, I'm releasing this this software update. It's going to eliminate all bots. And you, as somebody that is getting paid in bonuses at the end of the year, have a decision. Are you going to allow this person to or not? Knowing full well that the revenue is going, like revenue that, 10 to 20% of monthly active users is suddenly going to be eliminated. And that way the revenue is going to suddenly crash in the fourth quarter and your stock price is going to go down. Are you going to say, yeah, go ahead and do it? Probably not.
Negative tone for this expansion. Okay. 9.0. Daily Mog.
Somebody said Bobby and his main 10 guys make the decisions. Think about it. If you're Bobby, everyone knows who Bobby is. If you're Bobby and you want to see your bonuses, what was he got? What did he get in bonuses last year? It was like some absurd number. Like it was hundreds of millions of dollars or something like that. How do you think he's getting paid? Stocks. He's probably getting just a disgusting amount of share options and stuff. So when the decision making is coming to his desk or the people underneath of him are making decisions and they got to answer to Bobby Kotick, what do you think the decisions are going to be? To get rid of bots and get rid of revenue and all this other sort of stuff? Absolutely not.
Grinding, including daily quests, killing all rares, and the Eye of the Jailer mechanic, causing people to have to follow optimized routes. This was all to get random conduit upgrade.
What do you guys think of the graphics? I'm not going to lie, I don't actually hate them. Like, I'm not saying that I like them as much as Classic, but I don't actually hate them. That's not why I don't like playing retail.
Items and gem sockets, which all required stitching.
Like, this doesn't look bad. This doesn't look bad. Like, this isn't turning me off.
Conduit upgrades were random, starting at your lowest item level, and they could upgrade conduits that literally your spec isn't using. It's one of the most hostile player design decisions ever made. Torghast, of course, had to be ground out for legendaries, and this was the much worse than current original Torghast. Then we had the gold cost for those legendaries, pushing many people towards the WoW token. Okay, patch 9.1, time for it all to get... no, not good. You had the insane Korthia grind of people killing every single rare, looting every single chest, and killing the max amount of relic dropping creatures, and doing all the quests every day for almost a month. That's what the Mythic Raiders, and maybe some of the more trying hard heroic raiders, felt they needed to do. That, of course, was to get revered and exalted with the Korthia faction so you could get gem sockets and conduit upgrades. Stygian Embers then had to be farmed out for your shard upgrades, and of course you had to farm and pray for shard gear. You also had to farm Torghast for cinders, and of course shard gear would compete with legendary slots, meaning it was an utter hellscape of expensive recrafting. Patch 9.2 was a lot better, but it still had some issues. Bosses were tuned a lot higher than what players had previously been used to, with many bosses including punishing binary pass-fail mechanics that hindered progress. Then tier sets and double legendaries, those were essentially mandatory for the later bosses, which was troublesome in terms of tuning. Double legendaries were gated behind a quest that took weeks to complete. Of course, that was, after the raid was open. And then the creation catalyst opened on...
You wish they stopped focusing on the graphics? The Crisis graphics from 2007 is probably enough for any game. It's a novel idea here. I'm gonna just throw this out there. Maybe they should concentrate more on the gameplay. More people would play, and they would generate more revenue that way. I don't know. Just a wild idea I had.
People, Blizzard themselves actually, think was too late. Ouch. I think you can see how player friction was a staple of this expansion and was not helpful. These designs designed anyway, to encourage people to play more aspects of the game instead, and while we cannot literally causally prove this in a scientifically rigorous way, they do certainly correlate with data that shows diminishing player counts, which then you can mix in with data that, yes, is anecdotal, but generally has been quite large and persistent about the game being fictitious. Of course, there are some Mythic-specific aspects as well, and you can check out our Mythic video for that. But next, I want to talk about parse counts, because I did tease a bit of a classic versus modern
here we go.
thing,
Here we go.
Well, honestly, shit's insane.
Uh-oh.
All right,
there's gonna be people that get angry when he starts talking about this, because it's just
fun.
Yeah.
So one of the things with these Warcraft logs numbers is they actually don't
Oh my god. Oof. Look at this. It's just like a
entirely match up with the guild participation peaks and dips, so there's not necessarily a correlation. For example, there was a peak in guild raid participation in Alodar, but the number of parses recorded on Warcraft logs saw a decline. So just interesting quirks of data. There could be many other quirks of data here, which, to be honest, was in the original version of the script, but we'd be going on for like 5 minutes. So I'm just going to roll.
You wish that they would improve server quality, allow open world PvP for 100 plus people. You mean without lag? You know, I've got another novel idea. This is idea number 2. That Russian kid or whoever it is that they've got with the private servers in their mom's closet over in France or Russia or whatever it is, that has classic servers where they can have hundreds of people on each side relatively lag free. They should hire him at Blizzard, because it is embarrassing that these young men, I joke, I'm extremely I'm exaggerating, because obviously Nano is one of those people that helped develop the private servers, but it's unbelievable how a bunch of dudes in their spare time for free made these servers for private servers, or made a server for private servers that could have thousands of people on, 18,000 people on at one time, with virtually no lag on the server, hundreds of people in the same area, all fighting and stuff like that, using sapper bombs, everything like that, and everything running relatively smoothly. But here, you have 20 people in the same area, and suddenly we've got to have 5 layers. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't know how a multi-billion-dollar company like Blizzard can't figure this crap out. It is absolutely embarrassing that they get outperformed by a bunch of private server dudes that are doing this as a hobby in their mom's closet or something.
Rocket you through to the big comparison that people have been making, and that is classic versus retail parse counts. So, while
imagine being able to host a 20K server with 10K in queue and no lag in a basement. I think I heard closet. Was it a basement? Maybe, I don't know. How about Blizz reach out to Ashes of Creation for networking out? Oh god, could you imagine how embarrassing that would be? Although, to be fair, we haven't seen Ashes of Creation pull it off either. So let's wait to see that till we see them do it with 100. I know we've seen videos of them doing it, but let's wait till we see it done live, because they haven't done it yet. Also, they have access to the Nostalrius and Trinity code. Well, everyone does. I have a copy of the Nostalrius code myself. You can find it relatively easily if you want, and upload and you can actually find it relatively easily and create your own private server and dick around on it and level up and stuff like that. Like, I know people that have actually done that. Before Classic came out, tons of these private servers were around. I'm not talking about Lights Hope or whatever. These are individual people who had their own private little server that would invite their guild on just to practice Molten Core and BWL and all that sort of stuff. You can get the core for Nostalrius really easily. It's out there.
While Warcraft logs parses in classic TBC looked to have quite a slow start, albeit still having over 1.6 million parses in the first phase, things really started to pick up during the later phases. During phase 2.5...
You know what? I actually noticed this. Have you guys noticed that TBC seems to have gotten busier as the phases went on? Like, I feel like it wasn't... Like, it was busy, like, right at the beginning. And then it didn't feel like it was very busy after, like, a couple weeks after, like, phase 1. Like, a couple weeks into phase 1, it seemed to die down. But then suddenly, like, in SSC TK, it suddenly started to pick up. And, Black Temple and stuff like that, it seemed to have really picked up. Now, I think it's died down again in Sunwell, because a lot of people, like, they cleared Sunwell, or their guild fell apart because they couldn't clear Sunwell, or as soon as they got that first kill on KJ, their guild just said, okay, we're done. We've won the game.
When Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep were
the Lonely Moose, great name. Welcome to the stream, by the way. I came back to Classic just before Black Temple. I know a lot of people that have come back in the middle of TBC.
Released into the game, Warcraft logs saw a total of 8 million parses be recorded. In the following phase then, when Mount Hyjal and Black Temple were added to the game, this number soared to 15.4 million.
Holy crap.
Compare this to current retail, where the last few tiers have barely broken 2 million, and you do begin to ask yourself just how many people are actually playing.
That's like 7 times as many people. Like, I thought Classic was made. I was always sure that Classic was doing better. Let's be honest, Vanilla was doing way better than retail, but TBC I don't think is as popular as Vanilla. I think we can all safely agree that Vanilla was an animal unto itself. But I know Stay Safe and others have come out with videos and evidence that TBC had definitely more players, but to suggest 7 times
in Classic TBC when compared to retail, it's hard to say. Well, Classic TBC has seen.
Well, that's parses though, Ice Assassin. So that means that there's like I believe in, is that in 1 week? There's 15 million parses? Or is it like, because you got to remember, there's people that have multiple characters and stuff like that too, right?
Some dips following phase 3. It still managed to record over 2.7 million for phase 3.5 to 4 during the Zolaman release, and over 9.5 million parses in phase 5, which is when Sunwell Plateau was added. Now, the last time that retail WoW exceeded 9 million parses across all difficulties of a given tier on Warcraft logs was back during Legion in both Nighthold and Tomb of Sargeras, which had 14.4 million and 9.3 million parses recorded respectively. The closest that we've seen to those figures was during BFA's final raid, Nyalotha, and Shadowlands' first, Castle Nathria, each recording between 8.1 and 8.3 million parses. Now, let's not forget, though, that these numbers don't entirely correlate to the active, to the number of active players or guild participation figures. It's literally just a parse count. But, generally, if more people are playing, you would imagine that there would be more parses. Another little interesting factoid, too, is Classic TBC is absolutely humongous in China. I suspect in a way that Modern WoW isn't. Of course, it's an absolutely ginormous country, so you would imagine that a lot of them would be inflating up the Classic TBC numbers in a way where they wouldn't exactly be impacting the modern game numbers. Overall, then, if you want my opinion in this, I've got to say, I think it's fairly simple, right? And it could actually be worse than this data shows. I know that might sound mad to you, but do you remember that slide from the FF14 developers about, kind of the quiet majority will just sort of wander away and lose interest in your game first before you start to hear the vocal people?
Hey, what's wrong with Canada? What is this? If citizens disapprove of your policies, they'll move to Canada. What is this?
So we were using guild kills. Now, guilds are going to be more active players, right? A guild player is probably going to be more sticky, more likely to stay around because they got friends to play with. So guild numbers falling is absolutely terrifying. But another thing that's really terrifying to me is all the people who aren't in a guild and maybe just pug and stuff like that. What are the silent losses of modern World of Warcraft? I mean, we don't really have a way to quantify that. I do think the game is healthiest when our guild numbers are going up, though. Now, I did say I would talk about Dragonflight in the context of today's video because my mission here is to see how WoW is actually performing. It's not to shit on it. It's not to tell people not to play it. It's to see what's actually happened. And then we got to talk about Dragonflight. And this is potentially where news could get a bit better for us. When talking about the reasons, at least the hypothesized reasons for these declines, it was basically all player friction, right? Now, when I look at the current design of Dragonflight, it seems to not only be more alt-friendly than Shadowlands, it seems to be radically more alt-friendly than Shadowlands. The borrowed power stuff isn't there. That means that at a fundamental level, to be able to just hop into this endgame instanced content, all you'll really need to do is to make your character, level them up, fill out their talents, and get gear. it really doesn't seem like there'll be a whole bunch of external bullshit to grind. And the idea of the creation catalyst is something that Blizzard said they would like to continue going forward, but that they would unlock it a bit earlier in the tier as compared to the creation catalyst on week 8. So,
those of you that play retail and classic, what is more of a grind to, again, I'm ignorant. I haven't played retail in a few expansions now. What is more of a grind to get prepared to raid? Like, is it classic where you've got to do the attunements and get all the reputations and stuff like that? Or is there something that's going on in retail that is equivalent to that? Or is it worse? Is it easier? Like, I'm trying to get an idea as to, like, I constantly hear about how players in retail want stuff shared across the account and stuff like that, because you don't really have that in classic, right? Like, if you level up another character, you have to do all the attunements on that character when you had attunements and stuff, right? So I'm kind of curious, is the grind to be raid ready worse or better, easier than it is in TBC?
these things do actually give me quite a strong degree of hope for the next expansion. Ultimately, with Shadowlands,
Retail, because no one will take you unless... Yeah, but isn't there LFG and LFR and all that sort of stuff? Like, you're just kind of thrown into a group? It means grinding for your legendaries, grinding for the rep to get the legendary, farming gold and selling boosts and getting the gold for all that. That's what retail is like?
I think we see that where a lot of things were very powerful in the Legion expansion, I think we see that Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands misunderstood the role of friction, I suppose is a way to put it, or coercement into doing content in the overall design of World of Warcraft, and they misjudged that.
So, Urf, I don't... I'm not sure if you play retail or if you play just classic, but I hear a lot when I watch other people's videos, Asmongold or whoever, they talk about how they want, once you accomplish an achievement or an attunement or whatever, it to be across the entire account, right? And I personally prefer that it's not that way. I prefer that characters are looked at as their own individual character. And I know there's going to be people that are watching my video going, dude, that's so much of a grind. Yeah, it is. It is. So,
to the degree that a lot of people felt pushed away from the game, at least from my own personal.
You have to pick a house and grind in it, rinse and repeat. So, plus the community is super toxic. All dick measuring esports. Go, dude, bros. Are you talking about in retail? Because there are some toxic people in classic too. Let's not paint everyone with the same brush. There are some toxic people in classic. You're looking at one. No, I'm not. I try not to be toxic. Classic is more of a grind because you're a true vanilla classic player. I like the fact that you have to do things in order for your character to be able to do something else. I like the role-playing aspect so that you're role-playing this character who's got to get these achievements. Why is it that another character, if you're role-playing that one as well, suddenly gets access to those achievements when that character hasn't accomplished the same things? You know what I mean? That's why it's like it doesn't make sense to me. And I get that it's easier if you just give it the entire account access to it. I get that it takes away from the grind, but this game's a role-playing game. It's right in the title, MMORPG. You know, like, you have people that complain that Dungeon Finder. I shouldn't even mention this because this just gets people really angry. But when I start talking about how I don't like Dungeon Finder because it teleports you directly to the instance, I believe that you need to take on the role-playing aspect of actually exploring the world and getting to that instant. You're not just teleported to the instance. Otherwise, what are we going to see next? You do a quest and boom, you're just instantly teleported to exactly where you need to go. You know, that's the next step, right? If you're already teleporting to dungeons, you may as well teleport the character directly to where the mobs are that you need to kill. Hell, when you kill the last mob, boom, it teleports you back to the quest giver too, and then you can just hand in the quest. And make sure you get the add-on that automatically hands in the quest and gets you the next one as well. I mean, you may as well just... you may as well just sit there and fold your arms and watch the game play by itself. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm coming from. I don't know.
Personal perspective, it's absolutely no surprise that I'm having a blast in Season 4 as compared to prior seasons of the game. Season 4, a time where the game feels a lot less fictitious, a lot more opened up, and I feel like I'm more able to just hop into some content and have fun. Pretty interesting situation. Hopefully Blizzard will have learned the lessons required to not reproduce these issues and these large declines again, because ultimately I think we would all like World of Warcraft to be really strong and healthy. I mean,
we should have to take a shot every time Bellular has to push his glasses up. I don't know why. I notice it every time he does it.
Warcraft has more frequent patches, as Ian has said they intend to do, and we're in a situation where, if you're anything like me, every 4 months you get a fantastic FF14 patch. Maybe every 3 or 4 months you get you get a WoW patch, maybe a fantastic one even. As a player of MMORPGs who really wants to like both games, that is an absolute dream scenario. And I suppose, while I definitely would say don't pre-order, I will say, here's to hoping that that good future comes to pass. So that's it for me today. A thank you to Masterworks for sponsoring today's video.
Thank you, Masterworks.
Like
Please use the code Bellular.
The link is down below. And thanks to you for watching. Finally, I suppose, if you have any personal story to shed a human light, a human angle to the decreases we've seen, do share it down below. Because this isn't just numbers going down.
You know what's interesting? And he didn't bring this up. I don't know if he was alluding to it or not. As the numbers in Shadowlands went down, the numbers in TBC were going up. Do you think players... We had a couple people in our guild that stopped playing retail and started playing classic. I wonder if it's just a shift of players. They just said, oh, forget it, I'm not playing retail anymore, went play classic. But it sounds like it's an awful lot more than we think are playing classic than we're playing retail. Anyways, like always, Bellular puts on really good content. So basically to summarize, I guess I would leave this video with thinking that I think Blizzard has to have a hard look at what it is that is drawing people to classic and why people are leaving in droves. Like, I've said this many times before, I think Blizzard listens to the silent minority way too often. When they hear people complain, they want things changed, and then it just pisses off the majority of people who they weren't vocal because they didn't see anything wrong with the game. And over the course of years, that silent or that vocal minority kept getting more things passed and more things passed and more things passed. And as that happened, more and more and more of the non-vocal majority just kept leaving. So at what point, now this is like really kind of grim thinking, but at what point does Blizzard say it's not worth to continue developing? Like, the numbers are apparently at an all-time low. Based on the charts, it looks like they're all at an all-time low. How much further down do you think Blizzard is willing to go? Terrible news that the number of people with guilds dropped. Yeah, like the entire guilds are just leaving the game. All the roleplay guilds I joined on Argent Dawn have died. Was a full server, now it's dead. And again, as a classic player, I don't like hearing that. You know, and again, I've said it many times. I would like to see retail doing well. I would like to think, you know what, I want to play retail again because it looks really good. But I've been saying this now since forever. Another significant detail of Vanilla WoW is that your character was a nobody who grouped with the nobodies. Later expansion tried to make you seem like a superhero. That's actually, okay, so the surreals, that's something that we've talked about on stream. There is a point with your character in World of Warcraft where it doesn't feel like it's developing anymore. And maybe I'm just, you know, call me out on this if you want. But there's a point where your character just doesn't seem to be growing anymore. It gets to the point where it's just so powerful that and I think that's what made the first few versions of the game, so Classic, TBC, and Wrath, is you got through to Wrath, and your character still felt like it was progressing. You know, it was still able to do more and more things. But then it got to a point where it felt like the end of Cataclysm, doesn't feel any really different, your character-wise, than the end of, say, Mop or the end of Legion or whatever. Like, your character doesn't feel like it's really going anywhere. So it doesn't feel like you're growing with your character. Whereas when you're in vanilla, you can feel it from level 1 to level 10 to level 20, especially with the talent trees. That's one reason why the talent trees are so important, and why I think it's really cool that they've actually gone back to the talent trees. That's like the one thing that I actually think is really cool. But every level, you got to put that one little point into your talent tree. And for example, like if you get say you're on your mage and you're leveling Frost or whatever, and you finally get that point and you put it into Ice Barrier, you can tell the second you put it into Ice Barrier. Or if you're in Arcane and you put it into Arcane Fortitude, you can feel that with just 1 point, and it feels like every level. Whereas back in the day, before they did the level squish in retail, you would get to like level 70, and you'd still have to get to like level 110 or something like that. And from like level 70 to 110, your character barely felt like there was any change to it, because you weren't really getting many new abilities. Nothing really was changing. You were just basically leveling another 40 levels and not really seeing any development, right? So the tree, I think, actually had a significant role in making people invested in their character. I get that one more level and I get one more point in this, or I get one more level and I finally get a point in the next tier of the tree. So it's just really more engaging and much more exciting to level. And I think that's why people are more consumed with the leveling experience in Classic that some people used to make fun of, but it's the truth. People are much more engaged with their leveling experience in Classic, I believe. Aside from the fact that, people are just getting boosts and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, that's it for this video on YouTube. For those of you that are watching the video on YouTube, please, by all means, I can't imagine none of you are not subscribed to Bellular, but if you aren't, the link will be down below. Go subscribe to his channel. Definitely one of the top WoW creators of all time. Give him a like on the video. Oh, I haven't done that yet. Let me give the dude a like. I've been subscribed to this guy for days, or for years, for days. And if you like the commentary in my video, it would really help me out, of course, as well, if you subscribe to my channel and gave a like to my video as well. If you want to come and talk more about World of Warcraft or anything else, we talk about Ashes of Creation, Pantheon, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, even Lord of the Rings. I stream 6 nights a week from Tuesday to Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can come chat with me at twitch.tv/Alodar. We'll see you guys at the next video. Take care and have a nice day.